right, guys. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. It promises to be exciting and full of thrill and also enlightening um, points from this particular conversation. For our speaker today, I believe he needs no introduction, but guess what? As soon as he comes up, he lets us know, a few things about himself, and then we kickstart. Please do well to drop in questions. There's actually a slot allotted for the question period, so feel free to ask questions when the time is up, and let's have a wonderful, wonderful run. So, without much ado, I just invite Stephen Abela. Hi, Steve.
Hello, hi.
How are you doing today, Steve?
Okay, fine, thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about the atmosphere in Malta. I know you're joining in from Malta. What does it feel like today? A typical Thursday?
Well, it's warm, so it's summer period now. So like it's we're in that period where we're closing off stuff and where like your children are finishing school. It's very warm, so like it's getting harder to work. Well, it's yeah. However, like it's the pre-summer period, so it's quite a busy period as well.
Wow, I see, I see. Thank you very much, Steve. So, before I leave you to kickstart your presentation, Steve, please tell us a little bit about yourself. As you can see, Steve is actually the director for Point, with his name tag beneath there. So, just tell us a little bit about your expertise, what you actually bring to the table, and yeah, we're good to go.
Well, I have been working on Business Center for quite a long period. It's around 20 years, but it's a constantly changing system, and that's the beauty of it. As we get to see today, um, it's constantly changing, and that means that even our clients they have a system in place which is constantly changing, which they need to keep abreast with the latest changes. At the same time, which also proves that the investment is the correct one because it's a system which is constantly kept up to date. So yeah, so it's a software which actually brings a lot to the table because it keeps changing, and keeps adapting to time.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much, Steve. I mean, uh, Let us know in the comments if you got every single thing Steve said. Just let us know your reaction as well. Thank you very much. So, Steve, I think now is the time. Do your thing. I'll be off the stage. Take us away. Thank you very much.
So here we go. Also today is what's new and what's next, because we wanted to touch base on the areas which on the new features, but also maybe on the features which based on the client's feedback are not used that much. Unfortunately, today Mark had to join me, but he unfortunately he's sick. So I'm afraid I will be all alone here presenting and going through the changes that Business Central has provided us all for us to use. Um, so what are the key three topics? So we have the GL analysis. Very interesting also is the concept is GL reviews and Copilot. Now, I'm the first one to be skeptical about AI and how AI actually will be utilized within the accounting world, but there are a couple of surprises which I'm sure that many of you will get to like. So anyway, so let's start off immediately on GL analysis. So what are we speaking about in GL analysis? So generally, unfortunately, like in our world of accounts, we many times, too many times, we have to face a situation where we have loads and loads of GL entries, sometimes thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, which some way or another we need to analyze. Now, we all know how hard that can be. It's hard to understand numbers, it's hard to put numbers into context, it's hard to derive any type of information out of the data because we're presented with a long list of entries and long list of data, which no one really knows what it is. And many times we need to extrapolate the data, we need to extrapolate it in Power BI or in Jet reports and come up with some kind of graphs or some kind of information which would help us make our life easier. But obviously, this has its own challenges, and too many times it's a slow process. Albeit both Power BI and Jet reports are extremely useful tools. Still, sometimes we just need information there and then. We need information straight away. We need to analyze figures immediately. And this is where this new analysis tool comes along. It's a very powerful tool. It's inbuilt within Business Central, so it definitely makes it an extremely useful tool. Um, but I believe that it's best if we go into the system to analyze it further. However, like these are the key points that we'll be moving, that we'll be understanding. So the filtering of data. Now, filtering in Business Center in itself is already very powerful, but it presents us with a number of interesting features which we'll be going through. High level analysis, it is very important. Also, share analysis. Now, I will explain further later on. And the grouping. Grouping is an extremely important thing. So, like, how on earth can I create information out of this data? Well, grouping is key. Grouping by department, perhaps, or by GL account, or by source type or source number. We've all been, we've all gone through these fields. We perfectly understand what I'm referring to. However, like it's very hard to get that information out of standard GL entries. So let's deep dive into this by going to Business Central. And Joseph, if you can kindly switch on to Business Central, here we go. So obviously, we're presenting here a fictitious company, which I named Facts Limited because we're sticking to facts. So let's go to the chart of accounts, the heart of Business Central. It doesn't need any introduction, so we won't go into that. However, let's go into the GL entries of this particular account. Okay. Now, as you can notice, there are loads of entries. This is a very typical scenario. Loads of entries, loads of number. I have no idea what this number mean. What is the context we're speaking about? Are we speaking of thousands, of hundreds, or is this a large number, a small number? So we need to understand, we need to derive information out of this. Now, Business Center is presenting us with analysis mode. So first of all, you don't go into direct analysis mode, but you click on the GL entries. Now, please note that this applies to any table in Business Central, so it's a very powerful tool. I love GL entries. I think it's our main source of information. I think it's the source that we keep going to whenever we have any query, whenever we have any issue, whenever we have the auditors at our offices. And that's why I wanted to focus specifically on the GL entries. Now, in order to switch to analysis mode, you simply need to click analysis mode. So I'm just clicking on and off as you can see. Let's start from the very beginning. First of all, I clicked on the plus and I created a new analysis. Now, this may seem to be the same information as I have in Business Central in the ledger entries. So it's still a table format. So before going into the new feature, the actual feature that I wanted to speak about, let's first of all deep dive into the filters. Now, the best feature about filters are the certain extra filtering available in the system. For example, posting date. So first of all, I must add that filters are still available here. So our beloved filters, the ones that we're used to, are still available. However, it makes it easier to filter, for example, by quarter. or perhaps specifically by month. Sometimes we need to filter. Let me, as you can notice here, sometimes we need to filter, for example, on the month of January for every year. Using the standard filters, this date, so the date filter is not impossible, but very, very hard to get. So over here, or perhaps by quarter. So it's easy, let me remind you what I'm referring to. It's easy to filter for January, but it is just 1 year. If what do I need to do if I need to do another year? I would need like to do, so for example, let's say I need January 23, but also January 24. And it becomes more and more complex. So literally, I need to manually identify all the years, and out of all the years that I have available, I need to filter month by month. It's very possible, or yes, it is possible, but it needs a load, too much manual intervention, and obviously very prone to error. Over here, we have the best case scenario where we don't care about the quarter, but we can just go. So I will filter all the quarters, but I need just January, or perhaps I need just March. And here we go. So it's a very easy and very fast way to analyze certain information. The other ones are more or less standard. So I'm not like super keen about the rest because that's very standard. However, like the date filters are like they are a big change over the standard. So as you can tell, we have the posting date, it's very standard, but then we have the year, quarter, and month. Now, year was already pretty straightforward before, but quarter and month, they are game changers, in my opinion. So that's the first thing. Now, over and above that, we have the columns. Now, this is where the interesting part comes along. Rather than having a table, a nice table which I can still export and which I can still filter out, but what if I had to change to pivot mode? And this is where the interesting part comes along. Let's say I would like to filter by, to group by document type. Now I don't have any document types, or perhaps by, let's say, customer group. So at a click of a button, I can immediately derive the information. But what if, in addition to, now let's get more meaningful information. So I just need the amount. So I'm removing everything, and immediately, straight away, I get all the information required in relation um, to the customer group codes. So like a click of a button. As you can tell, getting that information from the standard ledger entries would necessitate like exporting all the information to Excel or to Jet Reports or Power BI and transforming that information into a pivot table. Now, what we're seeing here is a complete change where we don't need to export anything, we don't need to do anything, we simply need to choose the right columns and the right information that we need. Now, it's not limited to this. Over and above this, I can add another criteria. Let's say, for example, I want year. As you can tell, I'm dragging the fields along, and here we go. So I have 2,435 in year 21. I have 867 in year 20. And then each of which they are made up of these numbers. So as you can see, like the information here is very straightforward and it's very easy to understand. We don't need any complex development or anything else. We just need data. So it's very, very very, very powerful. It's a very strong and useful tool to have. Um, Now, let's move on to the next part. I can, as you can see over here, I already have two analyses. So I can have actually multiple analysis tabs and that I would go back each and every time. In order to save it, I just simply need to go back, to go here, rename it, and let's say, for example, demo tab. And what if I have a colleague who may be a bit, um, who may not be comfortable experimenting? Very easy. I can just copy link, decide what I'm copying, whether I'm copying specifically the link to the company or without any specific company. In this case, I want to provide the information specifically about Facts Limited, and I simply copy it. Let's test it out together. Here we go. So the user will be receiving this link and they will immediately get the demo tab with all the setups that I have done beforehand ready for use. So it's an extremely powerful tool. It's extremely simple in concept. So we are all used to using pivot tables. We're all used to filtering, but it is just the best part of it is that it is embedded within Business Central without having to use any extra tools whatsoever. So it's a very interesting concept. Now, let's continue working on it. So far I have row groups and values. Now, what if I need to analyze this by quarter? And let's say, so I'm removing, for example, the year. And let's say I want to choose all months. And here we go. So I can therefore analyze by customer group and also by quarter. And why not? Let me add back the years. Or let me leave it like this. So we're changing, we're constantly changing depending on what we need. So let's say I want to analyze the large customer group code. I can break it down by year, and at the same time, I'm analyzing it by quarter. So it's all the information which I'm used to by using pivot tables, but taken into Business Central. And obviously, I can carry on using this by adding more and more fields, by adding more columns, by adding additional grouping. Obviously, like the more you add, the more complex the analysis gets. So let's always sort of keep our enthusiasm at the bay and make sure that whatever we're producing here, we're actually is actually a reflection of what we're looking for, rather than just adding fields without actually thinking upon the final result. Believe me, it's very easy to add fields, so it's very easy to be carried away. But obviously, ultimately, we're looking for the right figures, the right analysis to extrapolate information data out of our system. So this is I believe, a very, very important tool. If I had to go to perhaps customers, I will immediately get the same feature. Obviously, when it comes to customer table, the feature is perhaps a bit less interesting. Then there are still some use for it. For example, the Bonnici SOI, once again, grouped by perhaps, let's say, I group it by location code or by uh, there isn't much, or by responsibility center, perhaps. So there is less use, as you can tell, by using it for static cards. However, this changes completely when we deep dive into the ledger entries. So once again, I can easily go to customer ledger entries and produce any kind of information whatsoever from the ledger entries using the same analysis feature. So once again, go to pivot table and perhaps just choosing document type and perhaps posting date here. So as you can tell, very easy, very straightforward to extrapolate figures and numbers out of the system. So it's all, so this is, by the way, this is a free feature. So this, we're not speaking about another one here, but we're speaking about a feature which is already available for anyone using Business Central SaaS and that have actually upgraded to the latest versions. So it's all about making use of it rather than anything else. It doesn't need any setups. It doesn't need any technical complication. It's just a matter of putting it to good use. Very good. I think we have properly gone through it. Any comments, any queries so far? All right, none whatsoever. All right, Joseph, can we go back to the slide, please? Very good. Thanks, Joseph. So the next topic will be GA reviews. Now, this is somewhat a bit less interesting and less exciting than the analysis. However, it's a tool which we have been asked for about it for many, many years. So let's go back to the scenario where we have loads of GL entries. Can I remember? How can I properly take note of the entries which I've reviewed? Like, for example, when we're reviewing it for consolidation purposes, or when we're doing the month-end reviews, or when we're checking an account, like, for example, the suspense account, which needs specific attention to, which we need to deal with because perhaps the balance is way beyond our budgeted balance. So far, there was no way how you can actually mark or flag entries in the GL as reviewed. So what does that mean? That means that every month I need either to remember, or I need to take note, or I simply need to assume that there were no entries beyond this month. But that's, as we all know, is a huge assumption which we cannot rely on. The difference here, that we're proposing, is the other way around. Let's stop assuming, let's stop taking notes elsewhere, but instead let's make sure that we properly flag the entries in our system without using an external system, and once again, without using any add-on whatsoever, but simply making use of Business Central. So let's go back to Business Central and let's go back once again to our beloved chart of accounts. Now, do we need to review every nominal account? Not really. The key setup over here is a very simple one, that every nominal account which needs to be reviewed is to be properly flagged as allow review. Very straightforward. Now, we have three options: none, no reviews at all, allow review and match balance. Allow review and match balance is when practically the double entry within the account is matching the amount. Now, where can this be useful? This perhaps can be useful when it comes to accruals, where we have an accrued balance which we're actually recognizing during a number of months, and when we need somehow to allocate. Now, there isn't a way of allocating so far within the same account, so a review and match balance can actually be more useful when we're sort of closing an accrual balance. But for all the other accounts, it is just a simple reviewing. So a simple mark that entry has actually been reviewed. So in this case, let's switch to allow review and go into the ledger entries of the specific GL account. Now, very important, a review cannot be done in analysis mode, so we need to switch it off. In order to review it, very simple, go to review entries. In my review entries, I get the full list of GL entries. So the first thing which obviously I need to do is either show reviewed entries or hide the reviewed entries. In this case, I'm going to hide them. So that means that these are the only entries that I need to review. And what do I need to do? Once I select the ones that I have reviewed and simply mark it that set selected as reviewed. Let me show my reviewed entries and here we go. As you can tell, I have two sets of reviews. I have one and two, but more importantly, rather than the one and two, because that is a system thing, so it's not really relevant for audit purposes. I have the reviewed by and review date, which actually is not date, but date and time. So over here, I'm specifying who is my reviewer and when it was reviewed. So I can very clearly go back and identify any issues um, and also ensuring full transparency. So what we're seeing here is that my GL entries are no longer a bunch of entries and that's it. We used to think that once it's posted, it's done. It's no longer the case. Now we can also do our reviews even though the entries are posted. And obviously, these are flagged, and this flag will not change unless I decide so. So let's say, for example, these one, I have an issue with them, whatever for whatever reason, and I will mark them as set selected as not reviewed. And here we go. So it's a simple button, but every time I am marking them as reviewed, so I'm marking them as they are sort of completely completed, even went through the review process. I am flagging them as reviewed, and I have a clear understanding of who has reviewed them and when. So it's a very, very important tool. As I already explained before, it's not as exciting as the analysis mode, which we have gone through, because obviously sort of this doesn't provide me with the information, but on the other hand, it provides me with a lot of peace of mind and transparency, which ultimately makes the system as useful and as reliable as it is. So it's not just about posting, but it's also about reviewing entries and marking them as such within the system. Any comments, any feedback so far? All right, nothing so far. So, Joseph, any questions from your side? All right, I guess no, not the case. Okay, so let's go back now to our presentation, please. So, the final part of our presentation is Copilot. So, when the team approached me to present the latest features of the center, obviously everyone was interested in AI. I must admit, I was not that interested. I find it I was a bit skeptic about the use of AI into accounts, into Business Central. I'm used to, like, knowing the system by heart. So, sort of, why do I actually need AI to help me? And will it actually be beneficial for me, for the users, for the team? However, sort of, okay, I started off from the skeptic position and I went through it. And it I believe there's a huge potential, as we will see. It's not a game changer now, but it clearly there are very clear and positive signs of it actually being a game changer in the future. But it's already providing us with more information. It is extremely useful, especially for the ones who may not be so accustomed to the system, because it actually enhances the knowledge gathering. So we will see. So what we'll be doing now today, I've decided rather than doing fancy stuff which may not be useful, I opted to go through the same features that we have done today. So mainly the analysis tool, and understand how Copilot can actually help us with that. So without further ado, let's go back to Business Central. And once again, I'm going back to the chart of accounts and once again choosing the GL entries. So let me go to another account. Over here, I'm choosing these entries. Now, the Copilot is a simple click. So analyze list, and it's very straightforward. So it may look complex, it may look so fancy and super technical. However, like Business Central, as usual, a standard from Microsoft, is very user friendly. So let's say I so describe the field layout and go on and we get started. I need an analysis by document type. So as you can immediately tell, we we have the same information. So let me keep it. I'm happy with the results. So as you can tell, I have the same information that I was extracting before, the same screen. So we're not reinventing anything at all. But it made it easier. It made it easier for me to get the information without any click, without clicking, without experimenting, without going through all of that. And here we go. We've got all our information presented in a nice way, making use of the analysis. So as you can tell, it's a very easy way. It's a very easy way of getting the same level of information by using Copilot, and more importantly, writing simple stuff. So writing simple instructions to the system, and the system actually turning that into more user information, into more useful information. Let's create a new analysis. So let's say I analyze by year. Add more details. So for example, add quarter. But it didn't actually find it, so like, and this is common, and this was done on purpose. So it's not perfect, it's not a perfect tool, because obviously AI is a tool which learns and relearns. So please do bear this in mind. But it's a very useful tool to start off with. Okay. Now let's go to sales invoices. So I'm going to discard it. Let's go to sales invoices and identify where it can actually be helpful. So let me choose a sales invoice and create one. Perhaps let me choose another one. For example, trade research. Now, here we go, sales line suggestions from Copilot. And I can say, copy last invoice, generate. So, could you have done it yourself? Yes, for sure. Could you have copied it yourself? Yes, once again. But still, it's a nice tool because the system has actually looked up the last invoice that has been created for trade research, which is 103.218, and it's inserting it for me. So these are practical ideas, and I'm open like for suggestions to actually get to use AI more in depth and in more useful ways. However, it's definitely a very important feature, which has promising results, especially in the future. So there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of potential features which actually can enhance the flexibility of the system and the performance of the team at large. Which obviously we're still in the early stages of the system. We're still in the early stages of Copilot here, but it's an area which definitely will be is the area of the future. So it will be beneficial for the whole team as years go by and more features are added. I find a very interesting feature, in my opinion. We can find it in items. Let me go to, for example, wrong guest share agree. And this listing feature is here. Create a draft, so marketing text based on this item. So practically what the system is doing is gathering information from the item card, and out of that, it has created this marketing text. So this obviously is definitely a new feature, and not perhaps useful for the accounting team, but definitely useful for the marketing team who will be filling in information based upon the system and the attributes and the naming convention that the company is abiding to. So it's definitely an interesting way of creating marketing text. Uh, so once again, we're seeing AI being put into different uses within the system. We have used it to help us analyze. We have used it to speed up the invoicing process. And over here, we've used it to create text out of the information that we have already inputted within the system. So which will definitely makes it easier for the marketing team or the sales team or the accounting team, whatever is the system. So as you can tell, I was super excited about the analysis, less excited, but surely very interested in the review. In AI, even though I started from a skeptical point of view, still I do understand and I do appreciate the potential that AI has um, for all the users, especially as more and more features are added to Business Central. So were the three key areas that we wanted to touch base today. Um, Joseph, back to you.
Yes. Hi. Thank you very much, team. That was a very elaborate one. Thank you so much. So, dear audience, this is the time. Do you have any questions? I see Okechu gave a comment saying that the entire slide was well delivered. Your delivery was on point, as we are in on point. I mean,
Yeah.
I see he says amazing features as well. Anybody has any question for this particular presentation from Steve, please?
So may I add here that similar to other accounting stuff or business central features, like seeing the feature is not enough. So obviously, I strongly suggest everyone to test it out. May I point out that we in no way are we posting anything at all. So we're the for the three features, we have never posted anything. It's just a matter of reviewing and understanding what has already been posted, or perhaps helping in our inputting. So I strongly suggest everyone to test them out. Um, Especially the analysis one, which is the most crucial tool, as we have already explained, and the review as well, which is also very important. It's crucial that we put them into good use, not when we need them urgently because we tend to panic and go into stress mode, but when actually we have like 5-10 minutes available to test them out. So simply go to your entries and switch the analysis mode, or go to journal entries and choose to review some entries in order to get used to it. Once you get used to it, then it's very easy and very, very user friendly, as you can tell.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve. Guys, do we have any questions, concerns, anything in regards to the presentation Steve gave? He just mentioned that, seeing the features is not enough. You need to practice them, and you don't need to do them in a rush. Just practice them and have them at your fingertips so that when the need arises, you can easily fall back on those features. Okay, so I see Richard Dama. Let me show this on the screen. Richard Dama says that Steve already answered the question I had in mind in regards to sharing your analysis with another BC user.
I must admit, I was not aware about it before actually presenting it today, preparing for today's presentation. So it was actually a very positive surprise. And yes, it's easy. It's like literally right click and share. So very, very straightforward. Once again, test it as I've done myself, test it using your own system. So test it by simply copying and pasting the link and they like to make use of it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Steve. Yes. Any other one, please? Any other comments, please? A very succinct presentation, straight to the point. Okay. I think Okechukwu is quite in a. I mean,
I think that's the perfect conclusion to this webinar. I agree with you, Chuku. It's practice
practice.
makes perfect.
makes
So, like,
Yeah,
it's the best way to actually like putting the
exactly.
system to and getting the full potential out of the system because like we're all aware of the investment done in the system. So obviously it's also like our duty to actually get the best out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good.
All right. So I think that's mine. That's mine too. At some point, we on point because we practice on point. That's
Very
mine
good.
too. Yeah, that's mine too. I think that we've actually exhausted or touched on base
Yes.
with every single condition in the house. So it'd be safe that we wrap this up and then we're good to go. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time. Thank you so much for such
Thanks.
a succinct and straight to the point presentation. It was amazing. Thank you very much. And I think that should be all for now. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining this spectacular webinar. For your information, this particular content will be available on demand on our social media pages and also especially on YouTube. So we'll be sending out mails actually to the people that were able to join on live to also catch the omnibus on our YouTube channel. I see Natalie, I see Janice saying thank you so much for joining. It was such a breath of fresh air having you on this particular one. And all together so soon, I think we can finally draw the curtains to this one. But don't forget to stay in touch. Just follow us on our various social media platforms. And once again, we are not just Microsoft Solution Partners, but we're also Atlassian Solution Partners. And whatever need that may arise, we're just here to hold your hand and help. Thank you very much and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, Steve. See you on the other side. Yeah, adios.
Thanks.